Hey everyone, it's Andrew. I'm here with Charlie and welcome back to our channel on Everything Dog. Today we're going to be discussing how to get your dog comfortable with having their nails clipped. The reason why I'm doing this video was I was just about to cut Charlie's nails and I thought it would be appropriate to kind of give a general overview of how I got him to the point of being very comfortable with getting his nails clipped, because we adopted him about 2 years ago and he absolutely hated it. He would growl, he'd pull his foot away, he'd essentially do nothing, like never want anything to do with getting his nails clipped. And I worked with him through a lot of effort to get him very comfortable with getting them clipped, to the point where now what we essentially do is I pull the treats out and the clipper and he'll run over the couch, lay on his side, and essentially sit there and just get them cut every 2 to 3 days whenever his nails start hitting the ground and making some noise. And so what we'll do in this video is we'll just walk through the general steps and what my advice or recommendations are for doing this. First off, what you'll need for cutting your dog's nails is you'll need a clipper of some form. So this is the Top Paws classic like scissor style clipper. You can get it on Amazon for about like $8 to $10. It's pretty cheap, and I got this about 2 years ago. It's worked very effectively. I usually like this scissor style rather than the style that slides up and kind of clamps their toe, just because you can get a good angle at this and it allows you to see the blade and prevent from overcutting the nail. So this works really well. The other thing I recommend is getting some sort of treat that's high value for your dog. So as you can tell, Charlie is excited for these treats. These are just the Super Chewer treats that we get in the routine subscription box, but he'll respond to any treat and he'll sit there very comfortably working towards getting treat rewards with anything. So we're just going to use Super Chewer treats, but anything that works for your dog, I highly recommend using that. And then the last thing I recommend is always having, at least in the beginning, some sort of Styptic powder. That allows you for, if you're cutting your dog's nails and you cut them too much where you get into the quick, you have something immediately that you can put on there to prevent any bleeding. The goal though is whenever you're cutting your dog's nails is not to ever really run into that situation, because it causes pain, discomfort to your dog, and it's just going to make it an unpleasant experience where they're going to be conditioned that this is a painful or unpleasant experience and they're not going to want to participate with that experience. Beyond that, you can really just get started. So the first thing that I recommend is, when step one is really getting your dog comfortable with sitting in your kind of personal space and being touched or manipulated in preparation for getting your nails clipped. And so if you first adopt a dog, what you want to do is have the dog feel comfortable with being in your personal space, being close to you, and essentially touching or manipulating their paws. If they are anxious in general with sitting next to you, the first thing you want to do is just, like he's doing right now, is whenever he's sitting here comfortably and not anxious or anything like that, you just give treat reward and you praise him and say, good boy, whatever sort of praise you routinely give in that situation. Once they're comfortable with sitting with you comfortably, the next step is, what you want to do is just get them used to sitting with the nail clippers. So depending on the dog's history or personal experience, they might have had traumatic experience with the clippers in the past. And so if they had their nails clipped uncomfortably or got like clipped with the quick involved in the past, they're going to have an unpleasant experience and they might have a past trauma from that. And so what you found is, like for instance, Charlie, when he first got it, if I would pull the nail clippers out, he'd immediately be anxious. He'd not really sit with me comfortably. And so I got to the point where I would just pull the clippers out and I would sit here comfortably, and if he felt he sat comfortably and he was not anxious and he was well behaved and he could sit there, I would just treat reward him. So I'd show him the clippers, we'd sit here and I'd treat reward him, and he would be essentially a good dog. After the dog gets comfortable with that situation, the next step is to kind of set yourself up in preparation for manipulating the dog's paws or having them be comfortable with you potentially touching their paws. So what you want to do here is, while they're sitting next to you like this, you're just gonna reach and touch their paw like this, and you're just going to touch it briefly and manipulate it. And if they have any anxiety, you're just going to give a brief time where you touch the paw, make sure that they're comfortable, it's a pleasant experience, and you're going to reward them, say good boy, and that's really it. And you're going to do that over and over again until they're comfortable with you grabbing their paws, not manipulating them in some way, not tightly squeezing, but briefly squeezing them or holding them a little bit more, and having them be comfortable with that experience. If they have anxiety or that's not a pleasant experience, you're just going to work up to that situation briefly, where you touch the paw, either the front or the back ones, you manipulate them in some way, and they get comfortable with you doing that. Beyond that, if you can't get past that step, you're not going to have success clipping their nails, because they're going to have too much anxiety with you just touching them, where they're not going to sit still for you in order to do that. Sorry, there's like a fly flying around, which is annoying. But that's really the next step, is get the dog comfortable with manipulating their paws, doing that sort of thing. Now the next step, what you want to do is start working towards cutting or actually clipping their nails. In the beginning, what you want to do is, once you're able to manipulate or touch their paws, you're essentially going to reach towards the nail clipper and getting it closer. If you start moving it towards them and they start getting anxiety, pulling back, you essentially want to get it to the point where you can bring the nail clipper close to their foot and they feel comfortable or don't have anxiety or can sit there comfortably. You're not going to even attempt to clip the nails. You're just going to basically bring the nail clipper close, make sure that they feel comfortable, and then you're going to praise that same behavior and make sure that the dog is comfortable with that overall situation and he's sitting comfortably. Then the next step is moving towards actually cutting their nails, and what you want to do is essentially work towards cutting one nail just for a brief second and making sure that it's a pleasant experience. You don't cut the nail too much, you don't cause any harm or damage or any unpleasantness to it, and then you're going to reward the behavior. So really what we're going to do is, I typically we cut the nails on Charlie has a whole setup for this, where I actually throw him on the couch, I put him on his side, and basically we cut all his nails at once. But for the camera purposes right now, what we're going to do is we're just going to cut one right now, briefly, where I'll show you kind of the general step. So what you'll do is basically reach for one nail, and you're going to cut it like that, and then you're going to reward the behavior. So he sits very comfortably for this, and that's all you're going to do the first time, is cut one nail. That's the success. If that in one session you're able to do that, that's all you want for that goal for the day. You want it to be a pleasant experience. You're going to want to, and then you work towards more. So one day you might just cut one nail, but then you might cut two the next day. So for instance here, I'm just going to clip. I know, you're sitting so good. You're going to clip another one. Okay, so I'm going to just show you an example of how I typically set up Charlie for cutting his nails. What I'll do is I'll get a bunch of his treats like this, have them broken up really, and I'll just put them on the side on this coffee table here. He knows that when he's on the couch like this and the clippers come out, it's time to get his nails cut. I essentially give him a treat. Come here, good boy, come here. And then I kind of manipulate him into this position where he's in like an over position with his paws on the side, where they're overhanging the edge of the couch. And that's very nice because he has clear nails and his quicks very easily identifiable. So with the light overhead and looking at his nails from the side, I'm able to see his nails and clip them comfortably. And he's in a comfortable position where I'm not like overriding or in a very dominant position. And essentially what we'll do is we'll go through each of his nails one by one and just cut them and trim them every couple days when his nails start touching the ground. And so we'll just clip them, and what I find is after a few minutes here, he might kind of like reach up to me and nudge me or something like that for a treat. But at this point, he's very comfortable with just doing this and going through the process. So a lot of times what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to cut like one entire paw before he kind of sits up like he's doing now. And then he'll look at me and be like, hey, where's my treat? Well, I'm sitting very comfortably, I'm doing a good job, and you're not praising me. And so then I'll essentially praise him and say, good boy, I know. And then we'll give him a treat. And then we'll just kind of move on. And so we'll essentially go through that for the entire process of all his nails. And that's essentially one paw. And then I'll just basically grab the other one. He'll just kind of lay here like this because he knows like he's getting rewarded and it's not traumatic or anything like that. And we'll just go through the next front paw, and then we'll just kind of look at him, we'll trim him. I know, you're a good boy. And that's like all we have to do for the front ones because we do it every 2-3 days. And then what we'll do is we'll switch over to the back ones. I find that actually sliding them like this, good boy, he kind of knows it. And getting his back paws overriding like this is very useful too. And it's a little bit uncomfortable for him at first because I'm manipulating him and stuff like that. But he knows like, hey, I'm just gonna lay here and get treats. And then we'll transition to the back ones. He has a little bit more anxiety about the back ones, which is kind of anticipated. And what you'll find is after I cut like 1 or 2 of these, he usually reaches up and kind of nudges me for a treat. And you might see that in a second. Yep, and that's exactly what he does. He's like, hey, where's my treat? I'm doing good. And then we praise him and say, good boy, I know you're doing so well, I know. And then we give him a treat, and then he kind of settles down, and then we'll do more of the rest of the nails. And he has his dew claws too, so we always cut those as well. And he's a little bit more anxious about those, so we kind of reward him for that. And then we'll go over and cut the last set of nails on the last back paw. You're doing so well, I know. Good boy. Good boy. And pretty much we're almost done. We've just got 2 more nails, but that's really our whole process at this point after walking through the steps that we had before. It did take a long time. It took us almost like 6 months to get to the point where he would be cut comfortably. Before that, he would growl at me, pull away from me, and it was just an unpleasant experience for him. But I don't know what trauma he had experienced in the past. But every 2 or 3 days at this point, we just do this, and then I'll reward him. And that's the whole process. So I hope that video helped as far as walking through the steps for cutting your dog's nails, getting them comfortable with it. Just in summary, real quick, what you want to do is first off, get your dog comfortable being in the same space as you, being comfortable around you, making sure that they don't have anxiety just related to you being there. First, then you want to transition to you touching their paws or manipulating their paws, making sure that they're comfortable having you touch them and move them into a position that's comfortable for you to cut their nails safely. After that, you want to kind of expose them to the clipper, make sure that they're comfortable with having the clipper around their feet based on their prior experience. And then what you want to do is transition to cutting like 1 nail at a time and just getting it to be a positive experience. Once you do that, move to 2 nails, 3 nails, 4 nails, get them. And then after that, you get to the point where your dog's very comfortable with this experience. It's a positive experience. They know that they get a ton of treats, they get a ton of praise, and they really just sit here comfortably, and it's not a traumatic experience anymore. And so this is Charlie after 2 years of when we first got him, going from absolutely not being able to do it to him being comfortable, and that's worked very effectively for my personal experience. I'm sure there's people that are professionals or veterinarians that have better advice, but this is just my personal experience and how I did this with Charlie, and I want to share with you so that if you're going through the same process, you can kind of get advice from somebody else. So thanks for watching. If you have questions, comments, please post them below. If you like this video, please like it, and please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.